Hi everyone, this is Professor Kidwai, your instructor in our exploration of the art of film. I hope that this video lecture finds all of you well. So the function of this video lecture is to talk a little bit about one of the principles of editing design, which is the concept of graphic relations between shots, okay? In many ways, this is, I think this is the lecture that sort of painfully reveals to me the limitations of the online class, because, if we were meeting on site, I would have just shown you, 20 movie clips. But unfortunately, to create a video lecture, I've complained about this in the past, so I won't go into it now, but these files are huge. So I'm sort of limited in what it is that I can show you. So instead of showing you 20 clips, I'm just going to show you a handful of clips. We'll talk about them. The first example that I want to show you guys is a film called Lawrence of Arabia. Of course, a very famous movie directed by David Lean. David Lean does some fantastic graphic matches in this film, and I just want to show you probably one of the most famous ones, okay? So I'm just going to play it, and then we'll talk about it in just a minute, okay? So...
This is going to be fun. Lawrence, only two kinds of creature get fun in the desert. Bedouins and gods, and you're neither. Take it from me. For ordinary men, it's a burning, fiery furnace. Now,
for ordinary men, it's a burning, fiery furnace, okay? That's what this supervisor is saying to Lawrence of Arabia, warning him basically, do not go to Arabia, okay? But look at how Lawrence will embrace it, and look at how David Lean expresses that embrace through the use of graphical match in editing.
no, Dryden. It's going to be fun.
Look at the fiery flame. Look at that flame.
It is recognized that you have a funny sense of fun.
He's looking at the flame. And we see that the flame becomes like a sun, okay? That flame that was burning is now suddenly the sun that's going to rise here, or the burning fires of Arabia that we'll see right here, right? Because now we're going to see this beautiful shot. And of course, it takes us into one of those grand shots of the desert that this film is so famous for, that David Lean himself is so famous for, okay? So that kind of relationship existing between the flame that he's holding in his hand, that Lawrence of Arabia is holding in his hand, and of course the fiery flames of the sun that are rising on the horizon, okay? So this is one example of a kind of relationship, let's say, existing between two shots, okay? The next clip that I want to show you, which is going to be much more dynamic, because I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it's a shot, it's a scene. It's going to be a much more dynamic exploration of editing. It's, of course, the very famous quote-unquote shower scene from Psycho, okay? This is a scene that probably would be shown in any film studies class that is talking about editing, and that's for two reasons, okay? One, Alfred Hitchcock very famously used countless shots to construct this this 3-minute long scene, okay? I'm sorry, it's escaping me now, but you guys can very quickly look it up how many shots there are. It's like there are 50 shots, or maybe there's 70 shots or something. I don't remember what the number is, right? But there's an extremely high number of shots that are used to construct this 3-minute scene. So that in itself is sort of a wonder or a feat in editing, right? And two, and this is probably much more important, is that actually when we watch this scene, we imagine that we see Marion Crane, who of course is the woman that you see on screen right now. We imagine that we see Marion Crane actually being stabbed, right? But if we were to slow this down and watch this scene in slow motion, you would see that in none of these shots do we actually see any violence inflicted on Marion's body. Okay, so this is another important method, let's say, in analyzing techniques and analyzing the design of editing, right? Which is creating meaning through the juxtaposition of shots, even when the actual thing being expressed is not shown, okay? We think that we see Marion getting stabbed. Actually, if we slow it down, what we see is a intertwining of shots of the knife in motion that are intertwined with shots of Marion's body, close-ups of Marion's body, and also shots of Marion in distress. And that yields that new meaning, right? That dialectic process that I talked about in the audio lecture. It yields this new meaning, this new analysis, okay? So we're going to watch this scene. At the end of this scene is another graphic match. So I'll return to the concept of the graphic match at the end of this scene, but let's watch this scene together, and I'll, do that annoying thing that I do where I, pause or talk over videos. I'll continue to do that here, okay? Let me turn the volume down a little bit because this is going to be a loud clip. I don't want to burst your ears. Okay. Okay, this very famous shower scene, okay? Poor Marion. So let's pause here. So, Hitchcock is really adored by filmmakers and respected by filmmakers, and it's kind of impossible to find an introductory film studies class that won't talk about Hitchcock. One of the reasons that is because Hitchcock really expanded, let's say, the emotional language of cinematography. Another reason why he's so important is because of all of the cinematic innovations that he made in his films. Now, we're going to spend a good amount of time exploring Hitchcock in this class when we get to the chapter in the textbook that is on style. Who better to study other than Hitchcock, right? And so we'll watch this film. We'll also watch Vertigo in order to understand auteurship and style in this class. But, I wanted to point out the shower head right now because this is just an example of the brilliance and the innovation of Hitchcock, the craftsman, as a director, right? So, for years before I studied film, so I guess I have always been sort of fascinated with film even before I had actual academic study. But, as I watched this film as a really young girl, my parents were, terrible parents who never supervised what I watched. So I probably saw Psycho when I was a 5-year-old kid on television. And I remember, even from a really young age, sort of just marveling at this shot and not really knowing why I was marveling at this shot. And then as I got older, I started to contemplate, how did they do this shot? Right? Because here we have, the showers raining down this water, right? But the camera's not getting wet. What a feat. What a brilliant feat. It has a very simple answer, and once you hear it, you probably will think it's the most obvious thing in the world. But, what Hitchcock actually did is he constructed this giant shower head, and that's how he got this scene. So this rain is falling around the camera. There's no protection on the camera. It's just this giant shower head, so the camera actually will not get wet, okay? But let's keep going. So, Marion looks totally blissed out. In the shot that I just showed you guys, she almost looked happy. We're going to see Norman show up in just a few minutes. I'm sorry, by the way, if I'm spoiling this movie for any of you who haven't seen it. Forgive me if I'm giving it away. But, we're going to see Norman arrive in just a few moments here. And what is going to happen until the two intersect, until, Norman's blade meets Marion, right? What we're going to see is almost an example of parallel editing, of almost these kind of two different narratives blurred together, of the blissful unawareness of Marion meets Norman, okay? Here we have it. Norman shows up, right? We see it. She does not. Oh, no. Okay, so now I don't know if there's a way, I wish there was a way that I could play this slowly, but let's just pay attention to what these shots are, okay? And you'll see again that we never actually see like a stab wound. We will see, we will see maybe, I shouldn't say a stab wound. We never actually see the knife go into the body, okay? But we'll see all of these other things that give us the sense that this is happening. Again, I'll say this is the brilliance of Hitchcock's editing technique here, that he was able to develop or guide our understanding of the scene, even though what we imagine we're seeing is not actually shown to us. Okay, she's fighting it here. We hear the sound. The sound is really important here. It sounds as if, something is stabbing the body, but again, we're not seeing it. The fingers grasping for life. Okay, Marion slides down the wall. As she slides down, we see behind her, or we will soon see behind her, a blood stain. Okay, again, she's grasping at life itself. These are her final moments. The blood draining down. And now we're going to see this fantastic example of a graphic match, okay, of the drain and the eye matching up. So we're paying attention to how these two shots are going to be put together. Okay, we have that drain, and we have it on the eye. The shot of the eye is turning. It's turning in a similar direction, in a similar circular direction, like that water that's going down the drain. See how brilliant that is? How brilliant. Now it's pulling back. Now it's pulling back, okay? The actress doing a fantastic job here. I mean, this is really sort of hard to pull off, at the very least, to keep her eyes open like that, okay? We'll stop here, okay? I'll stop this audio lecture now. I hope this doesn't keep playing. No, I paused it. I'll stop this audio lecture now. I'll have a few other shots that I'm going to analyze in just a few minutes. Of course, this was Graphic Match. We'll look at different techniques in the next couple of lectures, okay? Thanks, you guys.